I never intended to hide my success. Standing outside my aunt's suburban ranch house in Austin on a chilly Christmas Eve in 2019, I watched frost gather on my leather boots and thought about how differently things might have turned out if my family had believed in me just once. My name is Tessa Langford, and I'm the founder and CEO of Solaria Strategy Partners, a rising star in energy consulting across the American Southwest. But to my family, I'm still the reckless one who left a safe analyst job at Dawson & Green 6 years ago to play entrepreneur. The string lights blinked indifferently as I remembered last year's Christmas dinner. "Are you still freelancing?" my cousin Marianne asked, swirling her wine, her MBA from Rice always somehow front and center. "Uncle Dean knows someone hiring for admin support at Chevron," my mom added helpfully, not realizing Chevron had just paid my firm over $3 million, 0 cents, to help restructure their regional solar division. My uncle, Robert Langford, spent 25 years at Langford Energy Services, a company started by his father. He climbed to VP while his brother, my dad, drifted between roles. The resentment between them shaped everything about our family gatherings. "Success means loyalty," Uncle Robert always declared, nodding at Marianne and her textbook career path. Business degree, oil industry job, aggressive networking. I'd chosen my own way. After double majoring in environmental science and economics, I spent 4 years at Dawson & Green. While others played office politics, I built something real. My first solo client was a tiny wind tech company in Lubbock. Within 5 months, they'd doubled their output. When I finally resigned, my mother cried, "You're walking away from a future." She didn't know I was walking into one. So, I built Solaria. Quietly, strategically. My name never appeared on the books, just results and influence. Tonight, they'd finally learn who really owned the golden deal they'd spent all year bragging about. To my family, I was still just Tessa, the wayward dreamer renting a co-working space downtown. They didn't know that co-working space was a decoy. My actual headquarters took up the top 3 floors of Austin's premier high-rise overlooking Lady Bird Lake. But since no one in my family ever bothered to visit, the illusion remained intact. I took a breath and rang the doorbell. My aunt opened it, her face lighting up before settling into that familiar wrinkle of concern. "Tita, sweetie, we weren't sure you'd make it." She hugged me quickly, then whispered, "Your Uncle Robert's here, with a few investors. Maybe don't bring up your little business tonight." Inside, the house buzzed with Christmas warmth. String lights, chatter, catered hors d'oeuvres. Oil executives mingled with family, and of course, Marianne was holding court by the fireplace, flashing her engagement ring to anyone who'd listen. Her fiancé Jared, now a junior VP at Langford Energy, stood nearby, soaking in every compliment. "Tessa!" my uncle called from the bar. He was already tipsy. "Come meet Glenn Martin from Velocity Core. They're hiring data entry." I almost laughed. Velocity Core was actually one of my clients. My team was finalizing their $120 million 0 cents transition into renewable assets. But to them, I was just another Langford who never quite lived up to the name. Before I could answer, Uncle Robert swept in, all charisma and arrogance, trailing 2 suited board members. My uncle's loud voice boomed, "These merger talks with Horizon Grid are killing me." I stiffened slightly. Horizon Grid was my company. A shell I'd formed precisely to bait Langford Energy into over-leveraging. "You know," my uncle mused, "if we could just get a meeting with Solaria Strategy Partners, this merger might actually move forward." "Too bad their CEO won't take meetings," one of the board members added. I sipped my cider to hide the smirk tugging at my lips. They didn't know she was already in the room. "Not yet," Uncle Robert growled. "But they'll have to meet with us eventually. We're Langford Energy, after all." I couldn't help myself. Maybe they're not impressed by the name anymore. The room fell silent. My uncle's drink froze halfway to his lips. My mother's eyes widened. My father's jaw clenched. "Tessa," he said sharply, but I didn't stop. "From what I hear, Langford's market share has shrunk. The merger with Horizon Grid isn't a bold expansion. It's a lifeline. The words landed like a slap. Years of being dismissed, of being the afterthought at family dinners had finally reached a boiling point. Uncle Robert turned a deep shade of crimson. How dare you? What would you possibly know about our business? My father grabbed my elbow and pulled me toward the kitchen. Now. Once inside, his voice dropped to a hiss. Have you lost your mind? You embarrassed me in front of Robert and the board. I was just... You've always been reckless, he snapped. With your little consulting hobby, pretending you know real business. The door creaked open. Marianne leaned against the frame, her fiancé Jared just behind her. Maybe she should go, she said with fake concern. We don't want to give Uncle Robert more stress. The merger matters more than her feelings. My father didn't hesitate. She's right. Get out. We don't need some low-level consultant spreading rumors. I looked at them. My father's disappointment, Marianne's smug grin, my mother, silent as always, 5 years of hiding everything I'd built. All for this. Fine, I said softly, grabbing my coat. But remember this moment. Tomorrow's gonna be enlightening. Jared scoffed. What could you possibly do? I smiled, thinking of the signed merger documents waiting on my desk, bearing the signature of T.L. Phoenix, CEO of Solaria Strategy Partners. Merry Christmas, I said, stepping into the cold, moonlit night. The next morning, I walked into Solaria before sunrise. The city was quiet, but our offices were already buzzing. Good morning, Miss Phoenix, Emma said as she handed me a fresh espresso. Only 3 people knew Tessa Langford and T.L. Phoenix were the same person. And today, that secret was about to shatter. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who should have known you best, hit subscribe, because the next part of this story proves just how powerful quiet success can be when it finally speaks. The Langford Energy delegation is scheduled for 10 a.m., Emma said, stepping in with her tablet. Your uncle has called 4 times, trying to push it earlier. I smiled, settling into my seat. The entire floor was built to command attention. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the skyline, original sculptures, soft lighting, and at the center, my desk. Carved from reclaimed longleaf pine, a quiet nod to power with roots. This was my world, not my aunt's kitchen, not their dinner tables. Here, no one told me I didn't understand business. How many are coming? I asked, flipping through the Horizon Grid merger files. 8, Emma replied. Robert Langford, 4 board members, their interim CEO. She paused. Your father, Marianne, and her fiancé. Of course! Marianne had just been promoted to head of strategic growth, another shameless title gifted for loyalty, not merit. I inhaled deeply, still hearing my father's voice from the night before. Emma understood and nodded. Call Gregory at Horizon Grid, I said. Tell him to be ready. Gregory ran my shell company. He knew exactly what part to play today. At 9:45, Emma's voice returned through the intercom. They've arrived, early, as expected. Let them wait 15 minutes. In that quiet time, I centered myself. No more masks, no more shrinking. At precisely 10 o'clock, I saw their outlines through the frosted glass. My uncle, pacing. My father, stern. Marianne, whispering to Jared. I adjusted my blazer, touched up my lipstick, and opened the door. Silence. Uncle Robert stood. Excuse me, where's T.L. Phoenix? We're here to meet with Solaria's CEO. I walked calmly to the head of the table. You are? I said. T.L. Phoenix. Tessa Langford, CEO of Solaria Strategy Partners. Faces turned pale. This can't be, my father muttered. She's bluffing, Marianne snapped. Sit down, I said coolly, and she did. Emma, I called, distribute the merger packages. As the folders hit the table, I watched their worlds begin to unravel. The Langford Energy delegation is scheduled for 10 a.m., Emma said, stepping in with her tablet. Your uncle has called 4 times, trying to push it earlier. I smiled, settling into my seat. The entire floor was built to command attention. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the skyline, original sculptures, soft lighting, and at the center, my desk, carved from reclaimed longleaf pine, a quiet nod to power with roots. This was my world, not my aunt's kitchen, not their dinner tables. Here, no one told me I didn't understand business. How many are coming? I asked, flipping through the Horizon Grid merger files. 8, Emma replied. Robert Langford, 4 board members, their interim CEO. She paused. Your father, Marianne, and her fiancé. 4th. Marianne had just been promoted to head of strategic growth. Another shameless title, gifted for loyalty, not merit. I inhaled deeply, still hearing my father's voice from the night before. Emma understood and nodded. Call Gregory at Horizon Grid, I said. Tell him to be ready. Gregory ran my shell company. He knew exactly what part to play today. At 9:45, Emma's voice returned through the intercom. They've arrived early, as expected. Let them wait 15 minutes. In that quiet time, I centered myself. No more masks, no more shrinking. At precisely 10 o'clock, I saw their outlines through the frosted glass. My uncle pacing, my father stern, Marianne whispering to Jared. I adjusted my blazer, touched up my lipstick, and opened the door. Silence. Uncle Robert stood. Excuse me, where's TL Phoenix? We're here to meet with Solaria's CEO. I walked calmly to the head of the table. You are, I said. TL Phoenix Tessa Langford, CEO of Solaria Strategy Partners. Faces turned pale. This can't be, my father muttered. She's bluffing, Marianne snapped. Sit down, I said coolly, and she did. Emma, I called. Distribute the merger packages. As the folders hit the table, I watched their world begin to unravel. Inside the folders were detailed analyses of Langford Energy's financial standing, market weaknesses, and my proposed merger terms. As you'll see, I began smoothly, Langford's position is more fragile than anyone here realizes. Your modernization efforts failed. You've burned through capital reserves. I clicked the remote. Graphs and charts lit up across the conference room. Your market share has dropped by 42% in the past 3 years. Without this merger, you're 6 months from collapse. Uncle Robert's face darkened to maroon. How dare you? These figures, this is confidential. Nothing is confidential from me, I replied. Solaria has been tracking Langford Energy for years. I let the next truth drop. We also own large portions of your debt through holding companies you never connected to us. And Horizon Grid? That's my shell company. Jared laughed, nervous. That's not possible. Horizon Grid is international. It is, but it's mine. I built it for one purpose, to force this moment. Panic began to ripple. Every deadline you missed, every clause in every agreement. You were playing against me. My father finally spoke. Why would you do this? I looked him in the eyes, because no one at this table ever believed I belonged here. Last night you kicked me out for speaking up. Today you'll listen. I pressed the button again. Charts turned to action items. This merger will happen, but on my terms. First, the entire board will resign. This is madness, Uncle Robert slammed the table. Then, Langford Energy collapses. Your call. The room erupted. Uncle Robert shouted legal threats. Marianne cried. The board whispered furiously. My father stared like he was seeing me for the first time. Eventually, silence returned. What are your terms? Robert asked at last. Restructuring, fresh leadership, and the end of nepotism. Marianne and Jared, he asked. Removed, I said. All future positions based on merit. You can't do this, Marianne sobbed. Dad, stop her. But he didn't. He couldn't. And he knew it. As they signed the final agreements, my father remained seated, eyes full of regret. Tessa, he started. You should go, I said quietly. Emma will show you out. He paused. I was wrong about you. Yes, I replied. You were. You were, I said. Merry Christmas. After they left, I stood at the window, watching the Austin skyline glow as twilight settled over the city. Emma stepped in, quietly handing me a glass of champagne. Congratulations, she said gently, though something tells me this isn't the end. She was right. This wasn't the finish line, it was the first mile. My family now knew who I really was, but they still didn't understand what I was capable of. Tomorrow would bring new headlines, new restructuring hurdles, and the media firestorm. But tonight, I allowed myself one breath of satisfaction. The woman they dismissed from Christmas dinner now controlled the fate of Langford Energy. Revenge didn't need to be loud, it only needed to be precise. I raised my glass toward the darkened window. Merry Christmas, I whispered. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. News of my dual identity exploded across business media. Mystery CEO T.L. Phoenix unmasked. A billion-dollar secret hidden in plain sight. Every outlet wanted the story. Sitting in my office, I scrolled through yet another headline. Tessa Langford, the consultant who outsmarted her legacy. My phone buzzed. Another message from Marianne. The 10th this week. I deleted it, unread. Ms. Phoenix, Emma said, entering. The transition team is ready for final sign-off on the Langford Energy restructure. The past month had devastated my family. Uncle Robert resigned, trying, unsuccessfully, to sue. Our legal team buried him in evidence of mismanagement. My father retired early. He couldn't face reporting to his daughter. Marian and Jared were the loudest. They painted me as vindictive on social media. But it backfired when journalists exposed the damage their decisions had caused. Then Emma returned, voice softer. Your mother's downstairs, she wants to see you. I froze. My mother hadn't reached out once since the takeover. Send her up. A few minutes later, she stepped inside, visibly out of place in this space of glass and steel. She looked around, stunned. Tessa, she whispered, nervously twisting her hands. This is quite an office, my mother said quietly. What do you want, Mom? She sank into one of the guest chairs, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Your father's not well. The stress, everything. It's taken a toll. Marianne's engagement ended. Jared walked out after losing his role. The family's unraveling. I kept my voice steady. That's unfortunate. But business decisions aren't built on sentiment. Langford Energy is already showing signs of recovery. I'm not here about the company, she whispered. I'm here to understand. You worked so hard. We thought you were struggling. Why didn't you tell us? I let out a dry laugh. Tell you? Every success was ignored. When I made my first $1 million, you were celebrating Marianne's promotion. When I bought my first firm, you told me to apply for entry-level admin. We were trying to help. No, you were trying to force me into your box. Tears welled in her eyes. We were wrong. But you chose not to see me, I said quietly. Can't we fix this? Langford Energy will be fixed, I replied. But the family? That's not my priority. Emma will show you out. As I raised my pen to sign, I heard my grandmother's voice in memory. Something she once told me before she passed. Success isn't about proving others wrong, Tessa. It's about proving yourself right. And I signed the final document. 6 months later, Langford Energy's valuation had doubled under its new leadership. Messages flooded in from family, some furious, others suddenly sentimental. I replied to none, until one message caught my eye. Sophie Langford, Uncle Robert's youngest, the only one who'd never mocked me. I don't want anything, just wanted to say you inspired me. Watching you claim your power gave me the courage to try. I'm starting something of my own. For the first time in months, I smiled at a family message. Anna, I called. Schedule a lunch with Sophie Langford and look into her startup. Emma tilted her head. As family? No, I said. As an investor interested in real potential. That's the legacy I wanted.